posted by the corner. All that gas, changing every day with the sight from the past. Then my bitch say I'm a goner. She say I'm last to tell me that I never make it straight back up that path. All the glass broke in the dark room.
When I first listened to Night Lovell, I was mesmerized by his dark and melodic instrumentals and deep voice, which led to me being almost instantly hooked. From starting as a producer to blowing up with car videos and working with underground giants like Suicide Boys, this is the story of Night Lovell. Lovell himself described the night as the most vulnerable time, and it is also the time he records most of his music. When it's dark out, it's silent and nothing bothers him. It's when people's darkest secrets come out. That's where the night in his name comes from. Lovell is his father's middle name. Shermer Paul, or also known by his stage name Night Lovell, was born in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, and lives there till this day. His mom is from St. Lucia and moved to Ottawa when she was 12, while his father is Jamaican and moved there when he was 16. He was the first person to really support Lovell's work and sparked his son's motivation to rap, and even rap for himself under the name of MC Renegade. Growing up there, he is used to really exaggerated weather because it is either hot or cold. He describes it as a government city, which is isolated, boring, and almost depressing in the winters, which is displayed in the sound of his music. He's the most known artist out of his town and wants to put it on the map of music, acting as a leading figure or even hero of the city. His goal is to inspire other kids to do their own stuff and showing that it doesn't matter where you live to achieve your goals. Representing the connection to his hometown is very important to him, which is why he even has a tattoo which reads out 1855, displaying the year Ottawa was incorporated.
I'm from Ottawa. It's like 4 hours from Toronto. It's the capital of Canada, so it's the capital city. I don't know what really, like it's a really like boring government type of city. There's nothing really going on, so like when shit happens, like kids love it, so I feel like I'm kind of helping to change it. It gets fucking cold, really cold in the winter. I grew up in like the city's in like a valley, so everything's kind of exaggerated. So the weather's really bad, but I grew up in like the west part of the city like my whole life, and I still live in the west, so yeah, that's pretty much Ottawa in a nutshell.
When Lovell was younger, his musical influences were his mom and dad, with his mom coming from St. Lucia, thus playing soca music, and his dad being a rapper himself and occasionally playing dancehall music. Lovell himself preferred to listen to classic rap acts such as A$AP Rocky, Biggie, Jay-Z and Wiz Khalifa, and he even enjoyed rock music, naming the band AC/DC, which inspired him to be in a band himself.
I used to be in like a band and shit, yeah. I used to play drums. It was this band called Voltage, so we were kind of ripping AC/DC off because we had like lightning bolts and stuff. But yeah, I used to play drums, my friend played guitar, and
because he was a more quiet or shy type of person, he really liked playing video games such as RuneScape, MapleStory and COD. Aside from that, he used to be a noteworthy athlete, and he says he spent his time either running track, making music or being in school. He was on Team Canada and participated in the Youth Olympics in China and in a championship in the Ukraine. In the summer of 2013, he started to pick up the skill of making beats on his laptop with FL Studio. Under the name of KLMV, short for Killenov, he produced for well-known underground artists like Chris Travis and Anonymous. Amongst other things, he produced the tracks Live from the Creek, Live from the East, From Memphis to LA, Oh No, 7-Eleven, KLMV, and Evangelion X. On top of that, you can find his first project named I'll Be Back, released on the 11th August of 2014, which focuses on production and features the artist 50 Grand, who Lovell met in his transition and continued to collaborate with on his later to be released album Concept Vague. Even though he enjoyed producing and still produced throughout his later career, he wanted more. One of his driving forces to rap was the fact that you could, according to him, only really move crowds by rapping.
I always wanted to be that type of person who jumps around on stage and had that type of crowd control, and I figured the only way to do that was to add vocals.
One day in English class, he wrote the lyrics to Dark Light, which would turn out to be one of his biggest songs. He went home and recorded that song with a USB mic, uploaded it on SoundCloud, and filmed the music video for it with an iPhone because that was all he had at that time. About 1 month later, it blew up overnight, which would mark the start of his career. At that time he, as he stated himself, just put words together with no literal meaning. This is also the reason why his first official project, Concept Vague, is named that way. At a certain point he had to choose between running track and making music because the two things are utterly different. In XXL he stated, "Track takes you a lot of place and music takes you a lot of places. You can't really balance them both, but to me I just felt like I love music more, so I went with that." Then on the 22nd December of 2014 he released his first album, Concept Vague. It features 15 songs including famous tracks such as Deira City Center, Dark Light and Trees of the Valley. The production can be described as very atmospheric, dark and melodic, and the album revolves around that. Following a trap sound but still managing to pull off something the scene hasn't seen before is what this project did. On one hand it features ominous bangers like Questioning Your Theory and Sometimes Not Serious, while still maintaining a pleasant sound, and on the other hand it includes relaxed and calm tracks like Beneath. At that time it was undeniably influential in the SoundCloud scene and is because of that considered really important. The name stems from him not following a certain sound or topic but just making good sounding music. He didn't tell stories and instead focused on the concept of it as a whole. He recorded most of the album in either his mom's room or his closet.
That room over there, my mom's room, I made Dark Light, but there's a lot of songs I made in here and in the closet specifically. Like I recorded like Trees of the Valley in there, I recorded Light from the Car. I recorded like half the album in there and half the album in my mom's room.
Other recognition he gained was from other artists, for example Young Simi and DJ Smokey, who invited him to play his first show as an opener for the two. Due to a car accident the two got in before the show, they couldn't come, which made Lovell the headliner of the evening. This was also a point where he left his normally more quiet persona behind and stepped out of his comfort zone. Shows play a really important role for him because he sees it as a price for making music. He makes the art and gets the energy and reaction at shows as a response. With him keeping a mysterious aesthetic on stage when performing his aggressive songs, he creates an atmosphere where kids can let out all of their emotions and forget their everyday lives and struggles for a bit. For him, it's all about the fun and partying together. Until his next album, he would occasionally release music and tour Europe. From late January to the middle of February of 2016, he toured Europe for the first time, would probably only enhance Lovell's love for playing shows, and it gave Europe the chance to experience Lovell's raw live power. The singles he released include songs like Shaded Summers, Fraud, 314, Enemies, and Give Me the Keys, which were either co- or fully produced by Dylan Brady. He was also the person who produced his other hit singles Still Cold, Pathway Private, and Louis V. The first song is, true to its name, an ice cold song which took off almost instantly and is to this day one of his most popular songs. Louis V on the other hand is very aggressive. Another single that teased the album even more is named Contraband, an almost 4-minute catchy hard hitter produced by former collaborator Blank Buddy. He also helped bringing Lovell's debut album to life by producing several tracks on there, and he made a comeback here by also making the beat to the bouncy track Barbie Doll. Except from that, he was featured on the song Fuck Out Red by Lil West, which blew up massively as well. But Teenage Melody, a 14-track project released on June 13th of 2016, features, in comparison to his first album, more other artists than himself. On his newest effort, he worked together with Nestle, Wavy Drexler, and Dylan Brady to create something that would only solidify his good reputation in the underground scene even more. Lovell himself stated that he got more mature and had more stories to tell, which led to the album sounding more specific. With him starting to work on the album as a whole in the beginning of 2016, he created a seemingly consistent vibe while also showing off different sounds. He wanted to prove to his fans what else he can do, thus displaying more variety. On there he tells poetic stories about heartbreak and other recent happenings in his life while still using his recognizable voice and showing off his knowledge and well put together beat palette. Ranging from aggressive, pushing, almost grimy sounding album opener Boy Red to more experimental and futuristic tracks like Just Tryna and Problems, which still all include remarkable loud bars to blast your car speakers. Worthy of mention are also songs like Barbie Doll and Teenage Cutie that feature his dark voice but continue to manage to pull off a kind of uplifting vibe with their bouncy beats. It is to say that he was a lot more experimental on this album, which doesn't mean he lost his memorability. He showed that he has a knack for choosing good melodic beats and knows what he's capable of. The album name's origin is a rather sad story.
So this guy that died, he died listening to my music and shit, and his favorite color was red, and I named the album Red Teenage Melody, and his friends were here, so that was like hella emotional and shit. Teachers and everything, they're like, thank you did this for Devlin, like all his whole school, bro.
And you're like his favorite artist?
Yeah, and they're like, thank you, you did this for Devlin, we're all looking up to you, like his whole school. Like.
Yeah, okay, good.
A few months after the release of Red Teenage Melody, in October, Lovell went on the 1855 tour. Just the name alone, an homage to his hometown, takes us back to his connection with it, which is an ongoing theme throughout his whole career. Fans shouting 613, the telephone pre-selection of Ottawa, and the beginning of Still Cold takes us there as well. He visited Canada and America and once more proved his skills to perform live, which can be seen in the 1855 documentary. A short film that accompanied the tour, filmed by Wasim Farah, a photo and videographer and friend of Night Lovell. He recorded his next tours as well and went along with him to document everything.
We kind of came up with the gallery idea midway through the trip. We were in Michigan and we shot a whole lookbook, and we didn't really know what to do with the photos. Like, we wanted to get it to a magazine and like maybe on Hypebeast or something like that. But then in the back of my head, I was like, yo, what if we do a gallery? Like, that'd be cool. And the guys were like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna start shooting like way more photos, like every second of the day. And when we get back to Ottawa, I'm gonna start organizing the gallery myself. And like, I asked everyone to help me out a little bit. And then once we got back, I put all my time and effort into the gallery. And now we're here.
The next 2 years were rather silent, with Lovell only dropping few singles such as Whoever You Are, R.I.P. Trust and Jamieson. The last song was uploaded together with a music video directed by Nemix, who would go on to film another video with him in the future. It was filmed on the countryside of Ottawa and is a dark ballad about how drugs can change people. While also being featured on 3 more or less high energy songs, he went on a tour in Australia and New Zealand to give his fans there the chance to experience him in person for the first time. After that, another song dropped, which would turn out to be one of his most popular tracks to date. A few days before the actual release, which took place on 30th May of 2018, he teased the song Joan of Arc on Twitter, a bass-heavy banger featuring the well-known duo Suicide Boys, which grew up in the same underground SoundCloud scene as Night Lovell himself. Another important collaboration if you value the history and influence of that scene. After a long wait, he finally announced the release date of his newest album in late December of 2018. Named Goodnight Lovell, it was set to be released on January 25th of 2019. One day before the actual release, he posted a letter in which he told his fans the album had to be postponed to February the 22nd. To make up for the delay at least a bit, he dropped the single Bad Kid the next day. This ominous dark sound was a good way to introduce listeners to the sound world of his album and preview the vibe it would encapsulate. A few days later, a music video for it was released, which only helped to preview the vibe. About 1 week before the release of the album, the third single of the album, named Pink Witch or Lesson, was put out as well. His third album, Goodnight Lovell, is by far darker than its predecessors. It consists of 18 tracks, with 14 being produced by Ginseng. He helped to create a cohesive sound which is clearly noticeable on this tape. He described working with Ginseng as really well because he sent Lovell packets of beats with exactly the sound Lovell was looking for. He told Hot New Hip Hop he was looking for something he couldn't find until he finally found it about 7 months before the release of the album, when he created track after track. Lovell seemed to have found his sound and he used that. In another interview he stated that he also had phases in which writer's block interrupted him for a while until all of a sudden he was able to write a wave of songs. This project follows the concept of dreaming, with the album being a play on words as he uses the phrase good night and Night Lovell together. On here, different songs are about different dreams Lovell experienced, and the particular sound shows us whether it was a nightmare or a good dream. Furthermore, the sun, the last track on the tape, is also another metaphor for him waking up. The cover art displays a skeleton trapped in a cage, with the skeleton depicting him being trapped in his dreams, in this case a cage.
Oh, she dancing. Oh, she dancing. She's so dressed. Everlasting. I'm a madness.
When talking about features, it is to say that Lovell only chose people who really fit it and who he thought would help the sound. Lil Nas, Suicide Boys, Wi-Fi's Funeral, and Lil West are the only features keeping it at an acceptable amount in comparison to other SoundCloud rappers these days. Mary Jane, the first track on the album, is a good way to get things rolling with its nightmarish, aggressive, ominous, dark trap sounds. Similar sounds are also found on songs such as Unknown Location, Inside, I Like Blood, Bad Kid, and Watch Me. On the other hand, you can find more relaxed tracks like Where's My Money, Please Don't Go, and Bumblebee, with the last one being a highlight on the album. Its beautiful, kind of peaceful beat brings refreshing variety into the album, which is needed. Another standout song is Mental Slavery. Lovell himself said that once he received the beat, he instantly wrote the text and he knew that Lil West would be a perfect addition. On a negative note, the album was perceived as boring by some people because the beat production got very repetitive, with Ginseng handling the majority of it. It was said that it might have been a better idea to just release a shorter tape so the production and voice wouldn't get monotonous and not appealing anymore. It is to say that Lovell seemed to have found his sound on this album, and he is probably satisfied with it. Whether you find it boring after a certain time or not, I can assure you that you will catch yourself coming back if you're a fan, because you just don't want to miss out on certain great tracks. His next work includes 2 songs, with one being a track he teased 2 years prior and even played at a festival, now releasing them on a secret SoundCloud account after fans have been wanting him to drop it for several years. In December, he went on to release Lethal Presence, his first actual single after the album. It came with a music video filmed in Russia, as mentioned earlier, and you can see him jamming with his fans. This love from Russia might be coming from the fact that they can relate to this music this much, because Lovell's music reflects exactly the vibe their hometowns give them, making it something they can relate to.
Why do you call Russia your second home?
I feel like in Europe, Russia's one of the first places that supported me, like 100%. So I feel like it's kind of a second home. Like when I come out here, it's like going back to Ottawa. Like they just fuck with me out here.
They are as dark as Ottawa, and the music helps connecting them, feeling somewhat understood. Following up Lethal Presence, I Heard You Were Looking For Me, his next single, pursues this vibe, making it even more eerie by adding humming in the background and using his dark voice to match the tone. Furthermore, the lyrics support this as well, because Lovell raps about feeling like he's losing his friends and is surrounded by false friends. After being featured on his girlfriend's first album Sad Shorty, Ramirez's album, and a song by Snot, he published his latest menacing piece Alone, produced by his friend and DJ Shaq France, who supported him on several tours. Even though I mainly focused on his discography, Lovell is more than that. He is somewhat of a fashion icon.
No, yeah, facts. They go hand in hand. I mean, like, that's like half of the brand. Like, you have to have that, like, on tap too if you want to be like a very visually pleasing rapper, I guess, per se, so.
But more to the point, he is a local hero, and just staying connected to your roots is a message he lives and gives out the best he can, while not trying to overdo it and sound, quote, corny. He inspires people and helped his scene to develop by bringing in a completely unexpected kind of subgenre with Concept Fake when he was just 16. To this day, this album is something his fans describe as his best work, but Lovell grew away from that. He changed, and that is nothing to criticize directly, because that is something every musician has to go through. Nonetheless, we don't know what comes next, but should definitely be excited.